if we're able to educate on proper use, what it is now, then it can save human to human connection later that is necessary for human health. Otherwise, we become even more isolated than we already are. And that's not what I want. I want to use these tools to bring humans together. I want to use these tools so that my family has more time together, so that I can show up to my client calls and not feel like I'm distracted with note taking and all of these things. I have this
Mhm.
bot doing all my note taking now. And so utilizing the tools so that human connection can go further is what I
Mhm.
would like to see happen in business, as opposed to the other potential.
Are you using AI to its full potential? Or are you still on the fence, unsure if it's worth the effort or maybe even a little intimidated by it? In this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast, I sit down with Nina Marie Rueda, a traditional naturopathic doctor, mom of three, and mentor to other clinicians, to unpack how she's leveraging AI to completely transform her business and her personal life. Whether she's working directly with moms and kids to help them build healthier families or training practitioners to do the same, Nina Marie has found ways to let AI handle the busy work so she can focus on what matters most. From automating clinical workflows to streamlining customer service, Nina Marie shares how AI has freed up precious hours in her day and has allowed her to show up more fully as a business owner, a homeschooling mom, and even just a human being. And when she's not diving into protocols or mentoring other clinicians, you'll find her hiking, reading, soaking up the sun, or enjoying undistracted time with her husband and kids. So, if you've ever wondered how to use tools like ChatGPT beyond just writing a social media post, or if you're curious about what's really possible when you train AI to think like you, this episode will open your mind to the next level of efficiency and impact. Let's dive in. All right, everyone. Well, I am so excited to have with us on the show today Nina Marie Rueda. Welcome to the Nourished CEO podcast, Nina Marie.
Thank you, Laura. I'm really excited to be here and super excited about today's topic.
Yeah, me too. And you were just in our program group talking about more detail about this topic. So I'm excited for you to get to share it with our larger audience because I do think that AI is kind of in this funny phase where some people, like you and me, I think, are both kind of on this track where we're using it as much as possible wherever we can. Obviously, with some level of filter, we're not just letting it do all the work for us, but really looking for ways that we can use it as much as possible. And then I feel like there are people who maybe are afraid to use it or don't really
Mhm.
understand why they should use it or think it's cheating to use it. So I'm just excited to chat with you about it because I think even just having watched your training that you did for our NBA students, I was pretty impressed by like the depth that you've gone into as far as understanding how it works and all of that. So I am excited to chat with you about it because I hope that everyone listening at minimum is at least curious about it by the end. And if
Mhm.
not curious, then excited to be able to use AI and other tools like ChatGPT and all the things that exist now to be able to really help their business run without so much time and energy on their part. So, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about you and your business and what you do for your clients and how you fit it into your life, because I know you do homeschooling for your kids. So,
Mhm.
that is something that is a lot to juggle. So, can you share a little bit
Uh-huh.
about your life with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a mom. I have 3 kids. My children are 9, 8, and my daughter turns 7 in a couple of weeks. We finished our homeschool year a month early, which was wonderful. Juggling that with business and life and all of the things. So I've met and talked to so many clinicians who are very AI resistant. And I think one of the things that may help someone at least move from resistance to curiosity is you're already using things in your business that are at least related to AI. Like you have automations and these things happening in the background. And so if you can think about using this tool in that manner, it helps to like take away the icky feeling that people have, right? And for me, I just found out today about a tool that can build your landing page. So I plan to play around with that today. You have to give it like a bunch of information on your ideal client and all of the things. But if my landing page can be built from me from now on for a specific freebie or offer or whatever, like that's going to save me literal hours. or having to like outsource it to a web developer of sorts, or it's going to give me something much nicer than just a quick ConvertKit landing page thing for collecting emails, right? So there's so many different places where AI can be used now. I use it. I have this long automation with Zapier where it reads my emails and it will draft a response to all of my emails minus ones that I'm like, you never have to reply to this, like a full script email or something like that. There's no point to respond to that. And it has my like brand tone for the responses so that when I'm going into, well, not when my virtual assistant is going into my email box, she's not going to have to sit there and draft things. It's already going to have something for her to go in and quickly edit. And so it makes customer service, at the very least, if you don't want to use it in your clinical side of business, like the customer service side, there's a lot of things that it can be used for.
Hmm.
I'm using it for email marketing, for content creation for social media. I'm using it for, I'm almost done creating a Nina Marie bot so that clients can go to that with their frequently asked questions or other questions before they send an email or send a message in our client portal, because that may solve the problem before them having to come to anyone on the team. I I'm also creating bots for all of my offers so that if you're in a particular group program I have, there's going to be something that you can go to that may answer your question before our next group call. And so there's just ways that will give the person that I'm serving the information that they're seeking much more readily, much more quickly than having to wait for me to respond in a portal, in an email, or the next call that they have scheduled. So that gives the client, at the very least, it feels like they have more touch points with you. Not my favorite term, but it can be a helpful term for understanding. It's like it creates this omnipresence for the client. And I think that that can be helpful in your delivery of whatever your offer is.
Hmm.
And then there's the clinical side where I'm using it for, like, I've trained ChatGPT to think like me with lab interpretation and protocol building and how to create client reports based on those labs, or how to deliver information to a client that doesn't sound so medical or medicalized, but is very simple for them to understand. So having that kind of tool in your back pocket as well helps you to not have to use so much of your brain power on the tedious, repetitive tasks, and allows you to then use your brain for like where you shine and enjoy work the most.
Hmm. So I'm like listening to all this. I'm like, dang, I thought I was using AI for a lot of stuff. And I'm like, holy cow, that is a lot. So I just want to hear because a lot of these tools are relatively new, right? Like they're not, they didn't come out last week, but I would say maybe in the last, what, 2 years or something that they've really
Yeah.
become something that's publicly available. How did you like, walk me through the process of actually creating this stuff. Obviously, you're not gonna be able to go into detail on exactly how you trained everything, but all of this stuff about, oh, drafting email responses and all these things that I think even I haven't thought to necessarily do. Not that I'm, Miss AI genius over here or anything, but there's so many things that I feel like you're doing with AI right now that when I see what you're creating, I'm like, how the heck did you figure that out? Other than just being super smart, how did you come up with these ideas and how did you figure out how to create something that actually worked the way you wanted it to work?
So I'm not that smart.
You seem like you're I think being a little modest, but go ahead.
I I think I'm just I tell this to my husband all the time. Like I do not I have the biggest problem with inefficiency.
Mm.
And so when something isn't working as smoothly or as quickly as possible, like it is like nails on a chalkboard to me. And so when I come to a system, I think this might also be helpful. Before I was working for myself, I used to manage a clinic. And so I remember my first day walking into this eye clinic. The first thing I did was, you guys have way too many paper files. I need to go into this room and like make this work so that it's not like, where does this paper go? And so I walk into a space, whether that be physically or digitally, and I want to make it as efficient as possible. And so when I have literally like dozens of emails sent to me every single day, that is a time suck to try to have to delete emails and then respond to the appropriate ones or flag the ones that I need to come back to. And so I remember asking ChatGPT, like, here's my secret sauce. Ask ChatGPT about your problem and ask it how it can solve your problem. And it will tell you. And then use what it told you to do and keep refining. And so I went to ChatGPT, like this is all of the emails that I get each day. I need a easier system to not have to spend 2 to 3 hours responding or deleting emails, like that I would rather be spending that with a client
Mhm.
or I'd rather be spending that with my child, whatever you want to do. So that I think is the easiest thing that I can say for anyone who just wants to try, who loves hands-on learning. Go to ChatGPT and ask it yourself, what can I do to make this easier?
Mhm.
Tell it to act like an efficient time management, whatever, and it's going to help you figure out things that you probably didn't think about that are in its own, I think is like gold. You
Mhm.
can solve so many things. I use ChatGPT even in my personal life. So we recently, our HVAC system completely died in our home and we had to have it replaced inside and outside. And the day after they installed the new system, it shut off because it was leaking. And I remember, like, I need to go to ChatGPT because they're not going to be coming and it's almost 106 degrees here. We need to figure this out. I'm not going to be sleeping in my own sweat. Because I was able to ask it, like, hey, I need you to act like an expert HVAC technician. This is a picture of my system. This is what's happening. This is what my thermostat is saying. What could the problem possibly be? And it's giving me options so that I can think through while we're waiting for a technician to come out the next day. So even like utilizing it for non-business related things, you're able to learn so much more to save yourself time and money outside of that. And so thinking about using AI in a like just think of it as your back pocket expert in everything. And one of the like base things that you need to understand about AI is that it has access to knowledge about everything. But we don't need the world's information. When we're trying to use AI, we need the information about a specific thing. So instead of asking it for general advice, telling it to hone in on HVAC systems, on clinical management, on time efficiency, that helps to then weed out all of the stuff that's unrelated to that particular topic or thing. And then it gives you the expertise that you need. And so if you can just, again, like just think of it as a tool that you can use to make things a little bit more efficient or faster, then so many things can become streamlined or simplified in life.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that idea of thinking about, okay, what's taking a lot of time in my life right now, whether it's a business related thing, a personal related thing, and then asking ChatGPT to help you come up with a solution. Because I think what I believe people sometimes struggle with is knowing how to use it, right? If it's okay, I'm
Yeah.
into the idea, I believe that this would be helpful, but then they go to use it and they're like, what do I actually do? But asking what to do is actually step 1 is,
Yes.
getting that information from the AI itself, so that's super helpful. So with the work that you do, so you have your online business, and do you have
Mhm.
other clinicians on your team, or do you do
Yes.
okay, I was gonna say I thought so, but I wasn't sure. So you have this busy online business and you homeschool your kids. What does a typical day look like for you, and how do you balance all the different pieces of the business, which I would imagine are I'm sure you have client work. I bet you have some leadership and team management stuff. You have the marketing and the sales side of your business. And then you have homeschooling and family and all the things that go along with being a mom of 3 kids. What does a typical day look like that allows you to get all this stuff done without pulling your hair out by the end of the day?
So before, I just think about my life 12 months ago, and I was not using AI the way that I'm using it now.
Hmm.
And my husband wasn't home yet. And I can remember like Monday's homeschool. It was like I was waking up, working while my kids were eating breakfast, typing something while we're all at the table. Homeschool was in the morning and we were done by lunchtime. And so 3 kids, 2 of them, thank God, are at the same level. And so I can teach them both together. And then I teach my daughter her lesson. And so if I'm with one, the other one's doing something that's more independent. By lunchtime, they knew that they had independent play for like 3 hours because that is when I was either on calls, recording reviews, responding to people, whatever it was. And then I'm cooking dinner. And then my husband would come home and then I would do more calls. Most of my calls were in the evening. So it was a really long day. We got to the point in my business where I was able to hire a clinician. And so I gave her all follow-up calls. And so we were doing like a tag team for all of our clients. So that took off about half of the calls for my load, which was a super important step for me to not like die. And then we got to a point where my husband could leave his job. And I was like, you're spending more time away and it's a waste. You could be helping me and you would work less time and still make more than what you're making at work.
Was that because your business had grown so much? That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. And so he stayed at his job until he finished a master's certificate because he worked at a college and they were letting him do that for free while working there. And so I was like, cool, once you're done with that, please come home. And so he helps me with a lot of admin, shipping things. He's a huge help as well with homeschool now. But even so, like it still felt when he was home, like I still have so much that I need to do. So when I started to bring AI in was through the clinical side first before ever moving into like customer service, content creation, or anything like that. I knew that I was spending so much time analyzing labs, writing up reviews, and I record my reviews for my clients ahead of time because I got to a point where we were doing this live and it was just a waste of time afterwards. Like there's always this back and forth with questions. So I send that ahead of time to give them time to process. And there was still just so much that I was doing. So in utilizing AI for streamlining my lab interpretation, I like I don't have to sit there and write up or type up a report, even with the templates that I had. It is doing my work the way that I would do it in 10 minutes flat, easily per lab. And then I'm doing a quick, hey, this is how your labs are connected to what you were concerned with. I don't have to sit there and research anymore to see if these connections are there or if I'm making them up. And so going from like 30 minutes to an hour per client to 10 minutes, maybe 20 if there's multiple labs, to now have a clinical report that I can send them, a recording that I can send them, and my protocol is already drafted. I just literally copy, paste, and edit. So it's saved me so much time. And the reason that I wanted this wasn't so that I could add more clients to my business. If you want to do that, go for it. All you choose whatever you want. But I really just wanted more time with my family. My kids are getting bigger and they're now at an age where they'll tell me like, "Oh, you have another call or you have to go and it's not like and I remind them all the time like, "Y'all, I'm not gone 40 hours a week." Like there are families who don't see their parents almost all day long. But hearing that even still, and I know that this will be a very short time that they're in our home, that
Mhm.
I wanna maximize as much as I can the time that I have with our family.
Mhm.
So the capacity or like the expansion that I'm creating with this tool is so that my kids can remember a very present mom in their childhood, not a working one. I remember a little over a year ago, my daughter was drawing a picture of our family and she drew a picture of us sitting in the living room and I was sitting in the living room of our home with a laptop on my lap.
Aw.
And I was like, "Oh no, is that what you think of me?"
Yeah.
And again, it's not that I was working, but like all of my free time in between when I was with them, I
Mhm.
was working. And so to her, any time away from her was me working. And so
Mhm.
I want to give them someone who doesn't seem like they're addicted to whatever is behind a screen.
Mhm.
And so I think I'm rambling now. Anyway, so like that is where I want AI to be used in my family is to
Yeah.
create time freedom more than anything.
Mhm. I mean, I don't even know how I would be functioning with a almost 4-month-old and an almost 3-year-old and running a business and a team. And, my husband is very, very helpful. He is employed in the business as well. So a lot of the work he does day to day is home related, but still, there's so much stuff that would take so much longer to do. Or, like you said, I'd have to pay a lot of money to have somebody else do it for me. And now I'm like, oh man, after I get off this call, I'm going to start chatting with ChatGPT about what else can I potentially save time and even money on. Because again, I don't think I would never not have team members to support me because I think there is a lot of stuff that humans do that at
Mhm.
this point, I don't think AI is replacing, but it is something where even, those automations that exist just to help your team not take as long to do stuff is super helpful to get more done and that they don't have to work as much. And I really like how you're talking about not replacing all that time with just more clients, because I do think that that could be a temptation for a lot of people, and it's not a judgment, but I agree with you that there's other stuff that you wanna do probably,
Mhm.
right? And whether that's taking care of yourself or spending more time with your kids, I don't even know if it has to be that your kids specifically tell you that you're spending too much time on your computer. I think even for me, my kids are pretty little, they don't have a lot of opinions about that at this point, but I see how fast that they're growing and I'm like, I don't wanna miss it. I wanna have time with them. I wanna be able to interact with them and not just have that life, like you said, where, they're out of the house at daycare or something for the whole day and I'm just working my butt off and then they get home and it's like, okay, we have dinner together and then you're going to bed, right? So I think that this lifestyle that we're able to create even better now as moms with businesses, with a lot of stuff going on, I think AI is a really important tool to take advantage of to be able to do it because I just don't even think it's possible at this point to be able to do what a lot of us are doing without using tools like that to take some of the work off our plates.
If you're not using the tool, someone else will be, and
That's that too.
they're gonna be advancing very quickly because these tools, like, I remember having to manually do so many things when someone made a sale and to manually send an email and to get them a login so that they could get into a portal. Like, being able to just switch to having an automation for that was a huge time saver. And now there are literal systems that you can put in place with AI where it is managing from like someone's first click all the way to when you are meeting with them live. Like, the responding to emails I've mentioned, the being able to, like, search for answers on things. There's just not using AI at this point is going to cost people their business, in my opinion.
Oh wow, that's a strong statement. So what do you think is going to happen if somebody doesn't use AI? Because I have my own opinions about it, but I'd love to hear what yours are.
I'll say not every job. So, like, my HVAC tech is I'm gonna need my HVAC tech no matter what. So,
Mhm.
there are blue collar jobs that I think are pretty safe, but if you're an online business, like, I even in course creation, like, we have all of this information at our fingertips, and you could use the free version of ChatGPT to build out a course outline and give you transcripts and all of the things. And so, if any user can do that, whether they're trained or not,
Mhm.
I think it's just going to propel the creation of more online resources and courses and all of the things that it to a degree will become very like information noisy.
Mhm.
But if you don't have these kinds of resources, how do you like, I don't know that that's gonna be the differentiating factor for you.
Mhm.
If you don't have someone who can't or something, not someone, something that is responding pretty quickly to questions that they may have because they enrolled in your offer, someone else has their 24/7 response rate, right? And so it becomes a, like, competition of who's the fastest. And if
Mhm.
you're not using AI, you won't be.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine it's not a whole lot different than the businesses that used online services versus the ones that don't. I mean, if you think about even something as ubiquitous at this point as online booking, I know
Mhm,
for me, if I'm working with even a clinician, like a health expert, if I can't schedule or change appointments without having to call them and then their office isn't even open 9 to 5, like they have part-time office hours, it's a huge pain in the butt. So if I have to unschedule an appointment because of something coming up, I might not be back for a month or something because it took me too long to try to get on the phone with somebody to schedule. So something like that is, I think we're all accepting at this point that online
mhm,
bookings are a thing, right? And so I feel like we're in this next phase of online convenience, as I guess you would call it, where, like you said, if somebody's not creating offers, systems, programs, ways of serving clients that allows them to have that level of access or instant access, it could be something that does make the difference between someone working with you or working with somebody else. And I don't think either of us would say that to scare people. I think it's more just being realistic about where all of this is going and why
Mm.
it's important to have these conversations now when I feel like we really are still in a transitional phase. I know it's probably moving a lot faster than even I'm aware of, but I feel like for a lot of online business owners, we're still kind of in this like, okay, what's going on and how do I incorporate this into my business? So, as far as what you do in your current job, or I guess your current, not job, but like the role you play in your business, where do you feel like your best energy is spent knowing that you can use a lot of different AI tools to replace a lot of what you were doing before? Is there part of your business that you're like, no, this needs to be me, this always will be me, and this is something that AI can't actually replicate?
So I tried, I think there's an online platform for video editing called Descript. And Zoom is even getting into this where you can create an AI avatar,
Oh
like
gosh, yeah.
record your voice. And I tried it and it was terrible. And I was like, I wonder if I can create an AI avatar so that I could give it a script and it records videos for me.
Mhm,
And it's still my voice and it's still me, right? It was terrible. And I'm sure that in time it'll probably get better. But I'm like, at this point, I'm not replacing like literally me on camera. Like that
mhm,
can't go and that cannot
mhm,
occur. My where it like in clinical work, I'm not replacing me for initial consults with people. I'm not replacing me for sales calls. I know that some people are like, they either hand off a sales call to another human being or they're utilizing like a ChatGPT bot for their sales calls, and it'll act like they can put in their objections and then you can plan what the response is to an objection and blah blah blah. I I don't think that would be wise. I think the human to human connection
mhm,
in this type of work, even in like a sale, like removing a human from a sale, I don't know that that's going to be beneficial.
mhm,
You might make a sale, but I don't know if it's going to be best for everyone involved.
mhm,
And then in my work and like training clinicians, I could record all the things all I want, but it's every clinician that I've ever worked with, either in a mentorship role or in a program that they enrolled in, they're like, it is when we are on our calls or meeting together that like things start to click. And so there's
mhm,
no amount of pre-recorded trainings or here's a PDF of sorts or whatever. None of that can replace, in my opinion, the type of education and connection that happens when two humans are talking to one another or
mhm,
two or more humans. So anytime that I am supposed to meet with another person, like that's not going to be replaced.
mhm,
Where I'm replaced is in a lot of the like admin stuff. And I think it's perfectly okay to take admin off your plate with
mhm,
tools that are faster than you.
mhm. I feel like especially with, like you were saying before, all the information that's available, all the noise that's becoming available, then, something that we used to maybe have to do as clinicians or experts is to be that source of the information. And so if we no longer have to be the information source, then we have to think about, okay, well, what are we the source of then if we're not just, spouting off facts and information and research and all the stuff that people used to rely on experts for. So I agree with you that personal connection, the energetic connection, the experience that you're creating for somebody when you're in a conversation, whether it's something like this, a podcast interview or a sales call or that initial client contact or a group call or something where you're creating an experience. That's where I feel like the non-AI work is really, really important. And I feel like a lot of people are not willing to step up to that kind of stuff because they would rather be the, behind the scenes just putting together
Mhm.
facts and figures and sharing information, but they're not necessarily willing to do more of that. I don't know if I want to call it presence work, but it's that work that it takes a lot of courage to show up and be yourself and be in your full authentic, who you are and what you believe in and saying what you stand for. But I feel like that's the kind of stuff that is actually going to make the biggest difference for business owners now because all of that information anyone can get at any time from anybody. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be you. So what does have to be you is the way you're speaking, the way that you're showing up, the way that you are creating an environment for people. And I agree that that interaction between two or more people is something that can't be replaced by AI. And so if that's built into your offers, if that's built into the way you serve people, I think that'll make, at least for now, we'll see what happens in the future, but I think at least for now, it'll make people's businesses a lot more AI competition proof because
Mm.
they're creating something that can't actually be recreated by a machine, essentially.
I had a conversation recently with someone where we talked about how I think it's really important that people are getting educated on what AI is and what it isn't, because the more the further we get in advancements with AI, the more human like these artificial intelligence machines are. And like I've seen so many videos, even before the recent like Google almost lifelike videos, where you can you're like, is this real? Is it not? I think it's not real. And if I'm already thinking that with videos, like there are things that people are going to begin interacting with, that if we're able to educate on proper use, what it is now, then it can save, in my opinion, human to human connection later, that is necessary for human health, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we become even more isolated than we already are, and that's not what I want AI use to, like, bring. I wanna use these tools to bring humans together. Like,
Mhm.
I wanna use these tools so that my family has more time together,
Mhm.
so that I can show up to my client calls and not feel like I'm distracted with note taking and all of these things. I have this
Mhm.
bot doing all my note taking now. And so utilizing the tools so that human connection can go further is what I
Mhm.
would like to see happen in business, as opposed to the other potential.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I feel like when I'm with a one-on-one client especially, a lot of what I do feels very much like channeling ideas or channeling
Mhm.
just I don't know, it's very interesting. I feel like as I became a mom, I had to kind of get out of my own way from an intellectual perspective because mom brain and just being like, I don't really feel like I remember things as well. I don't feel like my words are coming out as articulately as they used to. And so I kind of got into this mode where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to kind of let it let it flow, let it come through. And whether that's channeling my own personal experience, ideas, something of a spiritual influence, it's kind of TBD as far as where all of that's coming from. But what I really like about the tools that exist now is like you said, with even having to take notes, I don't have to necessarily remember what I just said to somebody. I can say something. They're like, oh, that was so good. What exactly did you say? And I'll be like, I don't actually remember. Just you have the recording, you have the transcript. Just go back and look at it, or I'll ask it to tell me all the things that I said. And for me, that takes off so much of the pressure to have to remember everything and to write it down and to be so it's almost like you're trying to pay attention to what your own thoughts are versus just letting
Mhm.
them flow, which I feel like normally in a normal conversation, you're not necessarily thinking about what you're going to say and then remembering what you just said and trying to make sure it's all captured so that somebody else can walk away with, an actual plan to move forward with. So that is something that for me has been really nice is being able to just be very in my element in conversations and trust that I have this little note taker that's going to be able to put together an entire action plan for every client I talk to in, 10 seconds. And then I don't have to worry so much about slowing down and catching all these ideas that come out. So that's been fun for me just cuz like I said after having two babies and being in like the 4 months postpartum phase right now, I'm just like, I don't know, my brain is not able to hold on to thoughts as easily as it used to before I had kids and it's nice to not have to worry about that cuz it's like that would stress me out a lot if I had to also be taking all those notes and remembering what I said at any given moment of like a 90-minute call with a client.
So I had a mentor call with a clinician yesterday, and one of her first things was, "Is this gonna be recorded?" I was like, "Absolutely, it's recorded. You get the transcript after." And then what I do with the clinicians I mentor, I give them homework where there are specific questions they can ask in ChatGPT to the transcript to help them to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to. And so the questions might change depending on the conversation we had. But
Mhm.
that has been helpful where I'm like, This now takes off pressure from me outside of that one-on-one call that we had. If they have questions and come back with questions, like I'm empowering them to use tools at their fingertips
Hmm.
to not be dependent on me anymore either, like, or any other person. Like, I would much rather teach you to fish than give you a fish, right?
Hmm.
And I think teaching someone to use AI well is letting them empty an ocean with their fishing skills. Like, there's so much that can be done in so many different areas of life.
Hmm. So, for the people who are listening that haven't really either started using AI or maybe they're using it, but they feel like, I don't know if this is super helpful. It's taking me a lot of time to even just figure it out. Is this really going to make my life easier? Is there any particular part of your life as a mom and a business owner that you would say start here or look here first to kind of get the ball rolling? Either is it easier to have AI help there, or it kind of is like the snowball effect where once they start using it there, it starts to open up time and energy to spend it elsewhere? Because from what you shared with our MBA students, the clinical lab analysis stuff to me looks like that took a long time to create a system for. So that might not be the best place for somebody to start
Mhm.
with their own personal life. So is there somewhere that you feel like, oh yeah, this is super easy to get started. It can save you hours and you don't even have to really program a whole lot. Any ideas about where you would recommend people look to getting their feet wet here?
Yeah. So if you're not trying to create your own custom bot, I would say like the easy mom use is, these are the ingredients in my fridge right now. What can I make for dinner? Like, and you'll have 3 to 5, and ask for 3 to 5 options. Tell them what the allergies or sensitivities or picky food things are. And it will give you like some really good, tangible things that you could use right then and there. That's a really low entry, like low hanging fruit way to use ChatGPT is, this is what's at home in my cupboard, in my fridge. I need to make lunch in the next 10 minutes and I want it to be something that I can get done in 10 minutes, right? That's an easy one. For a clinician, I would say I have a prompt. I can give this to you if you want to put it in your show notes. There's a prompt that I share with clinicians to like help them figure out what their ideal client persona is. And when you like walk through these prompts, you're going to end up with like a 3 to 4 page PDF on the person that you're trying to reach. And it's not just going to give you the like, oh yeah, they make $100,000 a year and live in the suburbs and shop at Starbucks and no one cares about those details. I mean, they might be helpful, but that's not going to make your sale. It's going to give you more like buyer psychology stuff. It's going to give you what their pain points are. You can like ask ChatGPT to read the book reviews on a specific book that you know your ideal client is reading, and ask for pain points related to your service. Like, there's so many things that you could do to then use the language that your ideal client is using to speak to them about your offer so that they feel like, oh, you actually know what I'm talking about, because you actually do. So if you want like super easy, I would say ask it what to cook today. If you want something a little bit more user friendly, you can build out your client persona and then save that for content creation to make things like a blog, your Instagram carousel, a script for a reel, a YouTube video, whatever it might be on your topic, or for a freebie to create a PDF so that you start getting people on your list, whatever it might be. There's so many options, and there's a lot of different ways that you could begin to use AI. And all of this is with their free option. You don't have to have a paid
Hmm.
subscription to be able to do any of this.
Do you have any favorite ways to train on style? Because I know when I've trained on style, usually it's from feeding it lots of content, either transcripts of calls or things that I've written in the past, or I'll, read what it's writing and I'll be like, oh, I don't really like that. Let me, tell it how to change and then tell it to remember those changes. Is there anything that you do to get your personal style in there more effectively?
I've recorded videos answering specific questions and taken those transcripts. So, like, why did I get into this business?
Hmm.
Who am I trying to reach? Why this offer was created? So you speaking naturally, I think, is going to be the most helpful to create
Hmm.
your own brand tone. And so, like, you could record the video on your phone really easily. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Pop it in Descript, it will give you the transcript. Those things are great. Emails that have high open rates is another really good one. Emails or anything that has a high conversion rate is another really good one. There's anything that you see results with, whether that be saved Instagram carousels or reels or shares, whatever it might be, that kind of stuff is what you will want to use for programming your brand tone.
Hmm.
And then always like refining. I would say you would want to check in on that tone maybe 2 to 3 times a year because some things might shift. Or maybe you decided you don't want to use specific words anymore. And so you want to go in and say, don't use this anymore. Or please make sure you use this. And then checking in on that client persona, I would say twice a year can be helpful too.
Hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite ways to get more details on that ideal client persona is to take sales calls that hopefully you've recorded, because I know
Mm.
sometimes it can be hard to record those, but record them, transcribe them, and then tell ChatGPT that this was a buyer. 'Cause I feel like a lot of people, they'll take information from any person that they spoke to, right? Versus taking the information from someone who actually became a client and actually was somebody who was a good fit for their offer. But when you have a client or a sales call that went well and turned into a customer and was a good customer, not just like, "Oh, I wish I hadn't have sold that to that person."
Mhm,
But you can pull those transcripts and both pull what you said
mhm,
and how you explain things and the kind of content that you produced from your own brain. And then you can also pull, well, what did that person say? And what did they say their challenges were? And how did they word it? And I think that can be so helpful to then bake into how your ChatGPT responds or creates, because I do think a lot of people, they don't get good results from ChatGPT because they're just getting whatever the device or the software or whatever we call it, whatever the machine wants to give it, versus pulling from, here's how I said it and here's how my customer said it. And now can you create stuff that's in that world of context? And that's where you start to get stuff that's a lot more effective, a lot more conversion friendly, and also connects with people a lot better. And I just feel like this is the kind of stuff that I love having these conversations, because it's like, "Oh, what are you doing that's working? Oh, that's so cool, and this is what I'm doing." And I think that's where people in this particular area will really start to learn a lot more, because there is not really a ton of formal education for it. And I think the stuff that we do in our businesses are it's so specific, and there's things that it's working for us, and it's something that can really help other people that are running similar businesses and want it to work for their tone, their ideal client, all the things that make them unique.
and that goes back to at the beginning of our recording here, I was sharing like, yes, AI has access to all of the knowledge and all of the world, but I don't need that. I
Mhm,
need specific knowledge. And so giving it that transcript of the buyer says, this is the kind of information I want you to use. I don't want you to
mhm,
use anything else because that's just going to create something that I don't need. And
mhm,
so the specificity is having specificity is key in utilizing AI. But I mean, you should already know this as a business owner, like having specificity in your marketing language is going to be important as well.
mhm.
And so speaking generally typically isn't beneficial, at least not in my line of work. I'll speak personally, right? Like I need to be very specific in the language that I use and who I'm talking to and the pain points of the person that I'm trying to reach. Otherwise, no one hears it.
Yeah. Well, that is what we teach in the MBA program,
Yeah.
as I know you know. So it is something that I fully have put my stamp of approval on that advice for sure. Well, Nina Marie, it's been so cool to talk to you about this. Like I said, I think I mentioned this to you when you did the guest expert training for MBA, but I feel like I could talk to you for hours about this. This is like such a fun topic. Is there any resources that you have? You mentioned the ideal client research that you were going to share. I know that you have a program for clinicians that sounds like it would save them a bazillion hours in terms of setting up their own bot and then using the bot to analyze labs. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that opportunity if they want to get help in their business with a more complex approach to AI?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have created AI Lab Analyzer, and it teaches you how to utilize ChatGPT to interpret labs the way that you interpret them, to draft a clinical report for your client the way that you would draft it. And it will draft a protocol for you based on specific brands and items that you're using for your protocols as well as the clinician. And so I would be happy to give your listeners the special coupon code for that as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes for today's episode so you guys can check that out and see if it's something that will help you save time and be able to either serve more clients or just have more free time in your schedule, or maybe a little bit of both, which is my favorite combination.
Mhm.
Nina Marie, it's been so fun to chat with you. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you online and learn more about especially the services you have for other clinicians?
Thank you. It was really fun to chat with you too, Laura. I could have kept going with all the things. You can find me on Instagram. That is where I am most active, and it's at Dr. Nina Marie, and doctor is spelled out fully. Same thing for my website, drninamarie.com. And I answer all my DMs, so feel free to reach out. I love to chat with people. You can send me a voice message that's often way more efficient than messaging via text, so that works too.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I hope you picked up at least a couple of fun tips to start using ChatGPT and other AI tools more effectively. I know I'm going to go run off and do a bunch of what we just talked about myself. So I'm super excited. And we'll look forward to seeing you here next week on the Nourished CEO podcast. Bye, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and it brought you value, I would be so grateful if you would take a minute to leave a review over on iTunes. Your feedback not only helps more amazing coaches and practitioners like you find the show, it also helps me keep creating the kind of content that you want more of. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, search for the Nourished CEO podcast, scroll down and tap that write a review button. It only takes a minute and it means the world to me. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode.